whatever. But like the woman who goes to university, I'm sure you get these letters. I get them too. Woman who goes to a university is told, hook up with every guy you can, study some.
She chooses to, not told.
She's also told, and she chooses to.
Yeah,
she's also told by the culture,
because that's what she wants to do.
But she's also told to do it by the culture. You can't downplay that, right?
You can be told to do so. I could be told to jump off a bridge. It doesn't.
Right,
mean
I know, but you just said she's not told that, and I'm saying she very much is told.
Well, I'm saying she doesn't have to listen. I think it takes accountability.
So I think Michael makes a great point here that you know, they both make a good point, but you know, Pearl is right that at the end of the day, or at the end of our journey, we're held accountable to God. That, you know, our choices are our own. That's all we, you know.
100%. I also appreciate the fact that she's putting the responsibility back on the woman.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is a culture of you know, buck the man and all of this independent girl nonsense, and essentially everything that society has told you to be in traditional Christian values, be opposite of that. Be gross, give your body away, don't hold value to yourself. So I think it's a good thing that to see a woman sit here and, you know, put the responsibility back onto women. That's refreshing to hear. I also agree with what Michael Knowles says here. He's correct. You know, there's not someone sitting in a corner telling women, you know, go sleep with men. No, that's not the case. But you'd be insane to suggest that society isn't pushing women towards that culture of just hooking up with random dudes, and has devalued them to nothing but sex objects and monetized it.
Yeah. Well, the word grooming comes to mind, that the culture grooms us. Like that's
100%.
really, you know, and it's not and it's grooming us towards the world. It's you know, right now we're being bombarded from all different angles of like, hey, you know, it's no big deal, it's just sex. Hey, it's no big deal, it's just porn. It's no big deal, it's just a one night stand. You know, there's no like, you know, there is something to be said about where St. Thomas Aquinas refers to the law as a teacher. You know, the law and the culture are a teacher. That you know, it takes the old saying, it takes a village. You know, but if the village is decadent, then the village is gonna raise. You know, it's going to, you're going to more likely fall into the wrong way, which, you know, both you and I would be products of that, realizing, you know, I'm sure we would like to, there's parts of our life we'd like to go back and undo, where it was kind of like, not that it's not our fault and our responsibility, but it's like, well, it's kind of what everyone expects of us to do, you know?
Right. That's 100% correct. And, you know, getting back to what you said about Aquinas, you know, the eventual outcome of society promoting sex and you know, merchandising sex is Sodom and Gomorrah. That is the eventual outcome. The Bible tells us that. You know, you know, when you read in Genesis about Sodom and Gomorrah, you will see that when the two angels, Lot takes the two angels inside of his home, right? And men come banging on the door, and they don't say, "Bring these men out, let's beat them up." It was literally, "Let's bring these men out. We want to have sex with them." And it says that these were old men and young men. And then you go, okay, so you had fathers, you had grandfathers, and you had sons, little boys who thought it was normal to have sex with men.
Yeah.
That's the outcome here, right? That's full circle of what the society is promoting, Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, let's get back into it.
Off of women when we're constantly saying that the world told you to, and that's why you did it.
No. I agree that their wills have been malformed, and that our entire education system, broadly speaking, and now indulges the lower passions and denies the rational will, and denies even the place of reason and truth in public life. But so she does that. And she makes bad choices, and she picks some dumb major, and she graduates, and she's told, don't get married. You got to move to the city, and you got to sleep with 1,000 men, and you got to get a job working as a middle manager at a widget factory. And you're going to do that, and you're going to totally bypass your childbearing years, sleeping around and going out for brunch. and working for Mr. McGillicuddy at the
She
widget
chooses to
factory.
do that.
She's choosing it, and she's
Okay.
making a poor choice, and she's being encouraged to do it by a fallen culture. And then she's going to wake up one day, and she's going to be about 34, and she's going to regret all of these decisions,
Mhm.
and she's going to cry into TikTok. That's what's going to happen. That is a consequence. Living with the consequences of being used by men,
Mhm.
of not
Oh,
being able to have a harder
used
time getting
by
marriage,
men.
not having
Yeah.
kids, and
Why is
having
it that? What?
That's a
I'm
consequence.
sorry. I'm sorry. I've been cutting you off a couple
It's okay.
times. I do
It's all right.
apologize.
I've got thick skin.
I do. I don't mean to cut you off.
It's
I always crack up when he uses the widget factory thing. He does it all the time. I just love it. But
You know what though? Everything he said there was accurate.
yeah,
And you and I discussed this briefly earlier. These women are told to devalue themselves, that they're nothing but sex objects, to get a job, go get a 4-year degree, go get a graduate degree, work in corporate America, work in whatever, the medical field, the legal field, which I am a part of. And I can attest to that. I can attest to working with females in the law firm. And the majority of them are want to be at home with their kids. We'll put it that way.
yeah. No, it seems to be that this really just in general the college push in general it is net negative for society. We're seeing college debt at all time high. Just debt in general at all time high. Wages aren't going up. We're not. Your college degree is not producing a job of value for the most part for the marketplace. There's just too few
Yeah.
men in the trades. There's too few women at home raising children. It's kind of
It's
why
because they've
there's
turned society upside down, right?
yeah,
They switched the gender
yeah,
roles. They even got rid of gender. Now we have dudes walking around in dresses, claiming to be women. I mean,
yeah,
this is all ass backwards, and we have to correct it. And the only way to correct it is getting back to the truth of God's creation, the truth of God's word, and the truth of God's intentions for us. That's the only way to get back to it, because that is the truth, right? That is
yeah,
normal. We have to get back to normal.
absolutely.
okay.
But because my question is, why do we always say is used by men?
Because men
Like, women are
use women for sex.
no, but women don't use. There are women that hunt top men down and try to sleep with them.
I'm sure the top men are at the top. I mean, I don't know what top men.
But I
They're
know,
probably
but
some
see,
pickup
even the
artist
way, even
pimp or
the way you
something, but-
describe it, it's like always
'Cause men-
putting it on the men.
because men and women react differently to sex, and because men tend to pursue in sex, and women tend to be pursued. Because
Oh no, not the top guys.
what do you mean by a top guy?
Yeah, like
Am I a top guy?
I've interviewed. I had Brittany Renner on my show. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
There are girls that they learn she talks about this. They learn every single thing about, like, they become targets, the men.
Yeah.
And they get the guys to sleep with them. They try to steal condoms. Like, this is
But
not.
who's a top man? You mentioned a woman. Who's a top man? And am I?
Well, this is something.
I want to be.
If you were
called
dating
a top
again,
man.
if you were dating again, you might be.
I would be. All right. That's good.
You might be. I mean, women, when there's money,
Just my money. It's not my sparkling personality and my good looks. All right.
look at there.
Okay.
But I just noticed in the language, like, somehow it's always the men's fault when we talk about sin. So
No,
even in that sin,
women sin, but women are
women
easily women are taken advantage of because
I disagree.
do you think men and women relate to sex in the same way?
I think that
All
at
right,
times
stop
women
it
have
there.
more.
Stop it there.
Okay.
So this is a good point that they're discussing right now. And I
Mhm.
will say, my experience in the Christian church, the woman is always portrayed as the victim, and you can attest to that.
Yeah.
You can attest to that. So the woman is always portrayed as the victim, whether it's in a dispute, a dispute or a divorce or something like that. The woman is always coddled. Now, I will say this: Eve ate the fruit. Eve
Yeah.
ate the fruit, but what did Adam do as she was eating the fruit? He did nothing.
Did nothing. Yep.
He let her eat that fruit.
Yeah.
To me, as a man, we can sit here and try to, push liability off on women all we want, but at the end of the road, it is the man's responsibility and it is the man's consequence of where this world is today. Correct?
I completely agree that Eve ate the fruit, but Adam didn't have to eat it, as well. You know, it could have
He
been
did. He did
you
eat the
know,
fruit.
yeah, and he could have.
But
It could have been
the
a
point of
moment
that,
of
Ryan,
instruction and leadership of like,
correct.
this is.
Correct.
But I don't know what would
He
have
failed his
happened.
wife.
Yeah,
He failed her from the get-go is what I'm getting at. He did nothing. He
yeah,
didn't protect her. He didn't intercede. He allowed her to eat that fruit. And then
yeah.
yes, ate the fruit, additionally as, a cuck.
I always actually, that'd be an interesting theological discussion to have. Another point is like, what if Eve ate the fruit and Adam didn't eat the fruit? Like, what would have happened? You know, so
That's hard to imagine.
yeah, I think that it's probably a different
I
discussion.
think
We'll
that's a
make
good
a note of
question.
that and do a
Yeah,
little
I
research,
think you should
theological
make a note of
research.
that. We should yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah,
should. I think that's something I don't even know if I've ever thought about that or heard that brought up before. So
yeah.
that's that's pretty deep. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I am, to your point about like, women are always kind of often are viewed as the victim in most instances, especially within the church. Um, there is this element of like, um, sometimes there isn't accountability to the fact that, we know women can be very conniving and it's that old adage, kind of that trope of like the woman's poking and prodding and just in, and then all of a sudden you just blow up and you're the bad guy, so there's,
Sure. Sure.
but
Well, again though, you get back to your point of, well, Adam did eat the fruit, right?
yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't do that on his own accord. He was
yeah,
influenced.
yeah,
But but still his fault.
yeah.
Still his
I,
fault. He's the man. He's the man.
I think there's that element of, the household not being in order. Like, is the woman poking and prodding and nagging and causing an issue because you're a great guy and there's no problems and she just wants to cause chaos, or is it because you're being
You
slothful and
failed as a man.
you're
Yeah.
failing as a man, and she's trying to I think that's, when it comes to relationships like that, there is an element of communication that both sides are failing at, where it's not, or one's kind of, neither are saying what they're truly saying. One's just kind of
I agree.
nagging, the other's getting mad.
I agree.
Um, let's see what we got
More
here.
sexual power than men.
I'm not denying
And
women always
so
have more sexual
women, I
power
mean,
than men.
women take advantage of, you could say women take advantage of lonely men on OnlyFans.
But they do. What I'm
Yeah.
asking is, do you think that men and women
Yeah.
relate to sex in the same way?
No.
They don't. That's
course
why
not.
we talk about men and women in sex differently, and we ascribe different moral.
Right, but I think your
categories.
accountability for the action is still, it's on you. So I don't think when women sin, it's the fault of society. I don't think it's the fault the men are just using you. I think that when women do that, it's a choice.
Sure. Do you think
And
people
I
can be
don't.
deceived?
So you have an idea. You want to start a business, and you think you need money, capital.
I think women play dumb a lot.
I won't.
It's like
I won't pay
I'll,
for
I'll interview
YouTube.
these
So
women on abortion, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know. What, you didn't have Google?"
Yeah. Well, you say they play dumb, which they do, but are they
Yeah,
dumb
but
sometimes?
that's my
That's what I'm asking.
well.
You would
sort
say
of.
yes. You would say yes.
Yeah,
So people
but
obviously can be deceived.
they can be deceived, but you're still accountable for the choices that you make. And I don't necessarily. I think sometimes it's just the easier choice. Like women don't want to do the hard thing.
What's the hard thing?
I would say.
I think I kind of understand where she's coming. This is probably the first time I really kind of understand where she's coming from. Where like, and because I'm almost like, I would say the same way on the opposite end of the spectrum is, she's like, I understand why men don't want to date women or get married because women suck right now. And I'm like, where I'm kind of like, I'll have to make the point of like, I get why women aren't getting married because there's not a lot of good dudes out there at the moment. So it seems to be that
So
it's kind of her point
the
of the
only
overall culture.
the only place where you're going to find a good woman or a good man is in the house of God.
Yeah.
That woman under God's instruction and that man under God's instruction. That is it. Otherwise, you're going to have pandemonium, you're going to have instability, you're going to have trust issues, you're going to have all of the things of the world infiltrating into your marriage or relationship or whatever it is. Christ is the answer. That's it. And I do agree, with what she's saying. Ultimately, she keeps going back to that it's the woman's choice thing. It's the woman's choice. I like that. I love that she's saying that. That it is in the end the woman's responsibility whether she gives her body away or not, right? I
Yeah.
don't really agree with the sentiment that women are preying on men with OnlyFans. It's like no, that's entirely the weak little beta male's fault for going and seeking that. Like that again, that's that beta male's choice to go look and for naked girls online.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just
There's
giving you
no
product.
exactly. There's no product if there's no demand. You know.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
weak little
it's.
betas, dude.
um.
I got so many names in my head when I say that. I won't say them on here, but yeah. So
Yeah.
It's easy to sleep around.
Yeah,
That's an
yeah.
easy thing to do. Women are
It's a
picking.
temptation for
Women
men
are
too.
correct,
more for men,
but it's easier for women.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Correct. But that's the getting.
That's kind of why I
Yeah.
attack the guys for using women.
But
Yeah.
what percent of men are even using women? It's like 80% of women are involved in hookup culture, maybe 5% of men.
Yeah,
And I
the
can
top
tell you,
men.
I can even say this like from doing my show. I'll interview a guy. He's sleeping with like 3, 4. He'll go on
Yeah, that's
3,
bad.
4 chicks from the show.
Right, that's bad, right? That's bad. You would say that's a bad thing for him.
Sure, but my point is more women. There's 5 women partaking in it where there's 1 man.
But it's one man doing it 5 times as much as the women. That's
See, this is a great point to where they're getting onto something where I made this point in other podcasts we've done is hookup culture, how detrimental it is just to society as a whole from a standpoint that you'll have a majority of the women fighting over a few of the guys. It's almost they're all be competing to be harems in ancient pagan cultures where a few of the warlords, the kings, the lords, higher status men would have all the women and do all the procreating, where most of the guys would be left to do all the work. May or may not. Usually, to get a wife, they'd have to go to war and and take one from another. And that's where kind of Christianity, this idea of monogamy, has been a net positive for society because it's given so much. One, the woman isn't just some hookup culture harem that is part of really never sees her husband except for maybe a couple times a year where she gets knocked up, and then all these men that don't have wives now have a wife, and you have you're proud. It's why Western cultures flourish because of the ability of having the monogamous uh, um, relationship that's part of the culture.
It's the monogamy that we're instructed to have by the Bible, and it's the order of the household that we're instructed to have of the Bible. If you have those 2 things within your marriage, you will be just fine. And the order of the marriage is God, Christ, man, woman, child. I've said that on this podcast before because that's the truth. That's how you have a stable home. But that man, that leader of the household, better
Yeah.
be leading his household through prayer, through godly discernment and wisdom, and through love. And if he can do that, you will have a successful and happy family.
Yeah.
That's why I'm knocking the men.
But my point is more women are responsible for hookup culture than men.
But the men are more. You just
Nah,
acknowledged the
I
men
don't
are
agree
more
with that.
culpable in that.
Again, sorry, she keeps saying women are responsible for hookup culture. That's nonsense. That is entirely nonsense. Again, it's product and demand. Men want to hump everything. That's what dudes do. You high five your buddies. Oh, I banged this broad. I banged this broad. Blah 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 blah. Well, if those broads aren't there to bang, that's not going to be occurring. This I don't agree with her with this hookup culture is woman's fault. No, it's their fault for being the available for that. But it's the men. It's the men that are constantly. Come on, man. Come on.
Well, we focus on the physical act of sex here, but we know from a spiritual standpoint that pornography and lust are, it's like, Jesus said, lusting after another man's wife is the same act, same as committing adultery. So,
Right.
hookup culture is just as much as pornography, a man just viewing pornography all day, as it is a dude sleeping with a bunch of different chicks. It's just one
Right.
might be cooler than the other from the cultural standpoint, but
And
spiritually and from the sin world, it's the same.
it is. It is. And it's the availability of pornography that is the core of our societal deterioration when it comes to hookup culture. It is porn that makes women and guys' opinions. If they're watching porn steadily, then women are just a sex object. They
Yeah,
want a blonde sex object. They want a brunette sex object. They want a sex object with, a big booty. They want a sex object with big boobs. They want all these different sex objects, and that in that the woman herself, the individual, is gone. It doesn't matter
yeah,
who she is. They just want those physical attributes.
yeah.
But again, it's the men. It's the men.
And I think where we kind of mistakenly, or she mistakenly puts, responsibility on the women is, I do feel like a lot of this culture, from a woman's standpoint, is kind of the woman feeling like she's doing what men want her to do. So
Yeah,
that's how she's doing. That's how she feels like she needs to get the attention that
yeah.
she
Well,
thinks to be in a relationship.
is it women that shape societies? Is it women that shape cultures? Let's look through history. Of
Yeah,
course, it's not.
yeah,
It's men.
yeah,
Men and their perversion shape cultures and societies, and that's why we're here with this hookup culture. It's men giving into lust, and which provides for a whole bunch of extramarital and sexual immorality. So, that has gone just absolutely run amok and has destroyed so many males and women these days. But males have
if
wounds they can't. Yeah,
if all these men, these high value men, that are part of the red pill movement, part of the hookup culture, imagine if a lot of these dudes just stopped the hook, partaking in the hookup culture, maybe led a life of celibacy for a couple of years, healed, focused on God, and then re-entered while they're gone, then when they re-enter the
yeah,
dating world, women are like, we had no more, we weren't getting attention unless we were talking to you about God or talking about prayer or going to see you at church. You would
right.
see a drastic shift in how women
In the
are
culture,
approaching being a
in the
man. Yeah,
culture, and through the society, 100%.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
we're we're at like 22 minutes. We good?
I think we got some good. So, final thought on who's responsible for hookup culture, men or women?
Men. It's men. Men are the leaders. We craft societies. We craft cultures. We have let women down immensely. We have turned women into our own perversions.
Yeah. Men, stop whining, and let's actually, it sounds a little harsh, but um, I would say that you know, what's great, what's a lot of people talk about how men have it so tough because we're the culture is not the culture is against us. The culture wants us to conform, you know. But we've, like you said, we've always driven the culture. As soon as men, as a unit, were to shift back towards God and leadership, the culture would follow us. So we have the ability, to one man at a time, one step at a time, change all these things that we complain, that people complain about every day. Through your own actions, you can start to win this battle, this cultural battle of hookup culture and abortion culture and all that stuff.
And it takes men standing up and saying no. It takes men standing up and saying that's perverted, that's wrong. It
Yeah,
takes men leading the way to take this narrative back. So let's do it, men. But we have to
yeah,
do it correctly, and we can only do it through Christ. We can only do it through faith. We can only do it through Christian values, principles, and leadership. So,
yeah.
Adam Revival, join us. AdamRevival.com, Adam Revival YouTube. Hit subscribe. Thanks for tuning in once again. Peace out.
Amen.